first, let's address the big, ugly elephant in the room. This is gonna be an old What Sold video, and that's because I find myself just behind on my What Sold videos again. And I'm torn because in the comment section, many of you have let me know that you do not enjoy these videos when they are this old. I mean, I'm talking this week is the week of sales from the week of Thanksgiving.
Well, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
And a lot of you have told me,
I don't like to watch old What Sold videos.
On the other hand, there are many of you who are like,
I don't care how old it is, I'll still watch because this is my favorite kind of video from you.
So here's what I'll say. If this is simply too old for you and you're not here for it, I love you.
I love you.
Bye. I will see you in my next video that is not a What's Old because it's going to take me a few to get caught up. And if you want to stick around and watch this video regardless of the fact that it is ridiculously old, like 2 holidays ago old, I love you too. I love you.
I love you.
And thank you for watching.
Hi
Hi everyone, my name is Becky Park. I am a part-time reseller on a bunch of different platforms, as you're going to hear about in today's video, and I like to sell clothes and shoes that I find at thrift stores and garage sales and estate sales, or stuff that people give me. I like to sell them online on places like Poshmark, eBay, Mercari, a bunch of other places, and it is ridiculously crazy how good of a side hustle this has been for me over the past, oh my God, I think it's been like 6 years, which is also crazy. A couple housekeeping, just kind of like random facts, if you will, before we get into the What Sold. One, I am wearing my glasses, and that's because like something is wrong with this eyeball. I'm not quite sure. It's been just like, I don't want to say swollen, because I don't know if it's a swollen eyeball, but it's just really kind of hurt a lot over the past week and a half, 2 weeks, and I can put contacts on, but I don't really want to. It gets really uncomfortable and it just hurts. So I apologize because there's probably going to be a big old glare from my ring light, and I know that that's annoying. Yet another reason for people to just click out and be like,
I'm done with her.
Again, if you feel that way, I understand. Sometimes I am done with myself as well. And the second thing is I just got back from a trip to Disney World with my family and my students. We spent 4 days at Disney, 1 day at Universal. It was amazing, and I know that I did solicit donations from you guys at times, especially through my Instagram, just to help my kids go. I teach at a school where more than 60% of the students receive free or reduced lunch. And I do think that there's actually a higher percentage within the choir program for whatever reason. And thanks to many of your donations, I had students who would have never been able to go. And it was amazing. For so many of the students, it was their first time flying on an airplane. For a lot of them, it was their first time at a theme park or at Disney World or at Universal Studios ever. And for some of them, it was even their first time out of the state. So it was an amazing trip. I mean, there were, a few hiccups here and there, as there are always going to be on a school trip like this, but it was just wonderful, and that's why I didn't get a video out last week. I'm still a little bit in recovery mode, but I was just so excited to hop back on, get somewhat caught up at some point with these What Sold videos, and I'm also just really excited about content that I have coming out for you in the year 2024. And I've kind of been asking, but if there's anything that you want to see from me, definitely let me know down in the comments below, and I will try to deliver on that front. So if you're excited to hear what sold for me the week of Thanksgiving, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't, if you're brand new to my channel. If you enjoy seeing What Sold videos about 2 months after that week has happened, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, do all of the things, and let's get right into it. So to be honest, this week I just didn't list a lot, and a lot of that is because it was the week of Thanksgiving. There was a lot going on. My brother was coming in from Chicago. My mother-in-law was coming in. We were getting ready for Thanksgiving festivities, all that kind of stuff. And what I learned is that when I don't list, I tend to sell through a lot of my older listings, which I'm not really mad about. There's not like new listings to really sell through or catch people's interest. And so what I find is that a lot of the older listings that have been sitting for some time, they are the ones that tend to move. And that's definitely what happened this week. So we'll first start by talking about Monday, which was November 20th. On eBay, oh my gosh, this was very old. It was this Adidas gray 3-stripe piped quarter zip pullover. It was like a long sleeve light jacket in a men's size size small. This is not the kind of thing that I would pick up at a thrift store, to be honest with you. But I have a friend who moved to Pittsburgh, and she did a little bit of reselling when she lived here. She dabbled in it, and she had acquired some inventory. And obviously this was not stuff that she wanted to move with her to Pittsburgh. And so she asked me if I wanted it. I was like, of course. I did give her some money for it, you know, even though she tried not to take it. But I was like, you can't just give me a bunch of stuff and expect me not to give you anything. And so I would say it came out to about $1.50 per item that she gave me. But that was like 3 years ago at this point, I would say. And so after 3 years, I was finally able to move that for $14.90. That was an offer that I sent out to buyers. And after my cost of goods, eBay's fees, my net profit on that came out to $11.74. I just don't pick up very simple, basic Adidas pieces because I feel like there are a lot online. I don't feel like there's something that people are necessarily looking for, especially because Adidas is pretty inexpensive and you can pick it up for pretty cheap at places like TJ Maxx and Marshalls. And so it's not necessarily something that I would go out and buy while I'm at the thrift store, but because it showed up at my house when this friend of mine dropped stuff off for me, I did just go ahead and list it. But like I said, it took a very long time to sell. The next thing to sell was actually a pretty quick flip. It was by the brand Ping, which is a great golf brand. It was an orange golf sensor cool athletic quarter zip pullover in a men's size XXL. So, you know, given that it was a golf piece, given that it was the brand Ping, and given that it was a men's XXL, those are a few of the reasons as to why I picked this up. It only sold for $15 on eBay, but I was happy with that. I only had $2 into it from a local consignment store during like a sidewalk sale that they were holding, and I purchased that in October of 2023, so it only took like less than a month to sell, which was amazing. I didn't make a huge profit on it. I only made $8.56, and that was promoted on eBay as well at 3%. But, quick flip makes me pretty happy. And now I know that even though Ping is a great golf brand, more simple pieces like this just may not be worth the pickup. Even though I didn't have very much into it, it's still probably not worth my time in the future. Now I know because I went through the process of listing it and selling it. The next thing to sell was probably something that I had listed for about 2 years, maybe a little bit less, but it was this Gilly gray sleeveless jumpsuit with an elastic waist in a size small with pockets. I got this in a dress, what is it called? Micro bale. A micro bale is basically just like, a bunch of clothes like shoved together, and they like kind of put like wire around it, or not wire, but like plastic ties around it to kind of keep it like in a rectangular shape, and they ship it to you like that. Everything's crumpled together, nothing is folded nicely, and it was through America's Thrift Supply. They had reached out and asked if I wanted to do an unboxing of a micro bale of dresses on my channel. Free inventory. I said absolutely I would, and it was a horrible, horrible micro bale of dresses. Like, barely anything that I was excited to list. Most of it I donated or, tried to consign at local consignment stores. I probably listed like 25% of what I got in the box. It was rough, and it was free, and it was still rough. And so this was one of the items that I was like,
I'll just go ahead and list it.
Again, that tells you how rough this box was that I was willing to list this item. After about 2 years, it finally sold on eBay for $11. I had nothing into it, so my net profit was $8.33. But again, this isn't necessarily a brand that you need to put a lot of money down for, or that you need to frantically search for while you're out and about at the thrift store. The next thing to sell actually wasn't that old of a listing. It was probably listed for a little under 2 months. It was this pair of Carhartt fleece plaid flannel lined relaxed fit work jeans in a size 36 by 30. These sold for $20 on eBay. I had $6.25 into them from Plato's Closet. They were having probably like their 75% clearance sale. And so I was like, well, hopefully I can sell these for like $30, $35. I did not. I sold them for $20. My profit on that was only $7.91. There was a time that these Carhartt fleece line jeans did pretty well. Like I said, you could sell them for like $30 to $35, and that just really isn't the case anymore. I sit on them for such a long time, and then they end up moving for like that $20 to $25 mark, and so I don't know. For me, it's not really worth the pickup anymore. It's hard for me not to pick them up though, because I do feel like they're great pants and they serve such a great purpose, for people who are working outdoors and they need jeans, but they also want to just stay really warm. Maybe they're working in frigid temperatures. I feel like they are a necessity, but for whatever reason, I just feel like the resale value on them has gone down. So it's harder to justify spending, $5, $6 on them. So we'll see. Let me know if you have any experience with fleece lined pants, especially by brands like Carhartt. And I just feel like Carhartt in general as a brand has gone down when it comes to resale value. I do think their vintage coats like denim jackets and those kinds of things can still do really well. But nowadays, just because something says Carhartt on it doesn't mean that it's going to sell for very much the way that it kind of used to. And then I had a sale on Depop, and I guess this is a little bit of cheating because I'm saying that I sold these on Monday the 20th, but that's because they actually had sold the week prior on like November 15th or something, but I didn't know that they had sold. Like literally almost a week had passed until I saw that these had sold. I never got like a notification or anything. I don't even remember how I knew that they had sold. I think maybe I just like opened my Depop app and noticed that I had a little notification once I opened the app. And when I clicked on it, it was like, you sold this item. And it was from days ago and I felt so bad. So I reached out to the buyer and let her know that I just didn't even know that I had made the sale and let her know that I'd be shipping them out that night. So I don't know what it is about Depop. Sometimes I do get little notifications, in the top right-hand corner of the Depop icon of the Depop app on my phone. And sometimes I don't. I just have to like open it once a day and make sure that I didn't sell anything over there. But, a few days before the 20th, I sold this pair of Cut Loose, which is a great kind of like login look brand. They do a lot of kind of oversized, baggy, loose fitting type of clothes, often made of fabrics like linen and stuff. So this was a pair of gray lantern cotton linen blend pants in a size small. These got so much attention on so many different platforms. I think I had them listed for like $50 and nobody wanted to pay that much. People were like,
I'll give you 20 for them.
and I was like, no, thank you. And I don't know, I felt like they deserved a little bit more than 20. So I got a lot of lowball offers, lots of likes, and finally on Depop, they sold for $43.20. I think that was an offer she sent me, which was really weird. Like that's a very random amount to offer someone, but I accepted. I only had $3 into them from a local consignment store and I didn't have them listed for too long. Like I said, in the short amount of time that I had them listed, they got a lot of attention, but finally the right person came around on Depop and I finally made $29.12 after paying for things like shipping and for Depop fees and my cost of goods. It is a pretty great brand. I don't think it's like super well known. I think it's a little bit niche, but if you can find it for a good price, I do think it's worth picking up. And I do think it sells more on platforms like eBay. I was kind of surprised that those sold on Depop, but I'm not going to complain about it. And then on Tuesday, which was November 21st, on Poshmark, I sold this ASOS black floral print off-the-shoulder boho tassel dress in a size 6. This is super old as well. I got it from that same friend who moved to Pittsburgh, again, like 3 years ago. This sold for $11. I'm saying I had about $1.50 into it. I made a net profit of $6.55. When I first started reselling, I actually would pick up so much ASOS because I thought it was a great brand. I had friends that enjoyed shopping on their site, and to me that meant that it was like this amazing brand. It is not. It is so hard to move ASOS products, I feel like. And probably a year into reselling, I was like, okay, I need to cool it on this brand. Like, it is not worth the love and attention that I'm giving it. And I've been a much happier person since letting it go. But, this showed up in my house from this person. So, of course, I just went ahead and listed it knowing that there was a little bit of money to be made. And 3 years later, I made my $6.55. So... The next thing to sell was by the brand Gianni Beanie. It was this blue lace floral cap sleeve fit and flare dress in a size 4. It was lined, and it was something that I got as part of a different reseller buyout. I did this buyout probably in May of 2023, and I had about $3.85 into each item. This dress sold for $25, which is kind of like on the lower end of what I thought it would sell for, but also like not so low that I'm upset about it. And my net profit after fees and my cost of goods was $16.15. On Wednesday, which was November 22nd, I sold this vintage Colors by Alexander Julian alpine like ski snowflake sweater. It had just a very wintry print on it, and it was in a men's size large. So I want to say maybe sometime in 2022, I did a little partnership with the wholesale company Fleek. They specialize in kind of like vintage wholesale, and so I ordered a men's vintage box, and I actually loved it. I will link that video right here. I really love the pieces that I got in my box, and the way that Fleek works is really interesting. They have a lot of sellers on their site from all over the world, and you can choose who you want to buy wholesale from, and you can even set up like an appointment to do a Zoom call with them, and they can show you what kind of stuff they have, and you can like hand select what it is that you want. I will say that because the price is up to the discretion of each individual seller, some things go for kind of a lot, like maybe more than you would pay yourself, and some things are a really great deal. You just have to kind of like look through the site and see what you're comfortable with. But I settled on this box of men's vintage sweaters. I thought they were amazing. I probably overpriced the majority of them, which is why I'm still holding on to some of them to this day. But this amazing sweater sold for $40 on Poshmark. Now, if I had paid for that box, my cost of goods per sweater would have come out to like $13-ish a sweater, but because they had given me a credit to play with, I only ended up paying $1.82 per sweater, and so my net profit came out to $30.18. Had this not been a partnership with Fleek, and had I paid the actual like $13-ish per item, it would have been closer to like $20 profit, which I still think is pretty great. And some of the sweaters from that Fleek box, even with that $13 cost of goods, would have still been amazing. Some of them I would have maybe like lost money on, but overall, even if the cost of goods had been that high, I would have made some good money on that box. But some of these pieces are taking a little bit longer to sell through just because I'm being a little bit greedy with how I price them, because they're so cool. And then on the 23rd of November, which was Thursday, I had 2 Mercari sales. And here's the crazy thing about my Mercari sales this week. I had 4. I had 7 eBay sales, and my Mercari sales, my 4 Mercari sales beat my eBay sales. I made more money on Mercari this week than I did on eBay. That's one of the reasons I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket and only list onto one platform. I have pared down on the number of platforms that I sell on. I've committed to only selling on like mainly 3, sometimes 4, compared to the like 6 or 7 that I was listing to, and it's helping my listing go a lot faster. And you know, maybe I am missing an occasional sale here from Kitizen or an occasional sale here from Facebook Marketplace, but it's not enough to warrant the amount of time that I was spending on listing to those platforms. But I do still list to, you know, Poshmark, eBay, and Mercari faithfully, because I do think that there's power in cross-listing and in getting your items on more than one platform so that you can get more eyes on your items. And for me personally, I use the software List Perfectly. I've been with them for so long. It's just a part of my daily reselling routine to, you know, list onto List Perfectly, push everything out to the platforms that I wanted to list it on. That's where I put in the information once something sells, so that I can pull up my sales analytics and see how I'm doing for the month or for the year. That's where I keep all of my inventory information. It is my #1 reselling tool, which is why I talk about it all the time, because I don't want you to think that I'm just casually cross-listing to all these platforms manually by myself. I want you to know that I'm saving a lot of time by doing it with a software like List Perfectly. If you want to try out List Perfectly yourself to save yourself time when it comes to cross-listing, and just to have a really powerful tool at your fingertips that will allow you to, like I said, pull up sales analytics and keep track of your inventory. And there's so many other things that you can do with List Perfectly. There's almost like too many features, if you will, to the point that like I can't even possibly use them all. But if you want to try it yourself, I do have a coupon code. It's BECKYPARK, and it allows you to save 30% off of your first month. If you want to try it out, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I do plan on doing a List Perfectly video sometime in early 2024, just to kind of update how it is that I use it, because again, it is my daily go-to software when it comes to reselling. So the first thing that sold on Thursday, November 23rd, entered on Mercari was this pair of Talbot's purple corduroy flawless 5-pocket slim high-waist pants in a size 10. I was a little surprised that these sold on Mercari. I would have assumed that they would sell on eBay, but that's why you put things on multiple platforms, because you just never know. You can't guess what's going to sell where, and sometimes things surprise you. But these sold for $28. I only had $2 into them from a local consignment store, and I purchased them in October. So these are another thing that have only been listed for a little bit under a month, and my net profit on those Talbot's pants was $21.66. I personally love it when things sell on Mercari because I feel like their fees are lower than eBay and Poshmark, and so even though I don't sell as much on Mercari, when I do, I get really happy because I know that I'm able to pocket a little bit more of my profits. The next thing to sell on Mercari was a silly sale. It was this pair of MMA, which is boxing? Is it the real boxing? Like, it's not what's the like fake one that like The Rock and John Cena, like they, WWF? Is that what it is? What does MMA stand for? I want to say like something mature audience, but I don't think that's right. Maybe something martial arts? What does that first M stand for? It's a mystery. But it was this pair of MMA Elite shorts in a black and gold colorway. They had cargo pockets and a drawstring. They had a big skull logo, and they were in a men's size large. These I got in a reseller buyout. I would never have picked these up at the thrift store because I don't even know what MMA stands for. And I could just kind of tell, like, these are not going to be worth very much. But I just went ahead and listed them because I was like, I'll make some money on them. And so they sold for $10.69. I found out pretty late in the game that Mercari had changed it to where they were going by cents now. Mercari used to be like Poshmark where you could only list things by whole dollars, and if you were dropping the price of something, it would round up to the nearest whole dollar. It would not do cents. But one day, after like not doing very much reselling stuff at all, I opened up my Mercari app and I was like, who is this? Like, where did these cents come from? And although I kind of think it's ugly, I do hope that that feature shows up on Poshmark sometime soon. I would love it if I could offer a 35% discount on something, and it's actually 35% instead of like, you know, they're rounding up to the nearest dollar, so it ends up being like 38% or something like that. Like, in so many ways, if Poshmark could just go by cents instead of whole dollars, it would make my life so much easier. They're just not there yet. And I don't know if they'll ever be there. I know it's a little ugly, but I'm okay sacrificing beauty for a little bit more coin in my pocket. So those sold for $10.69. I had $2 into them from a reseller buyout that I did many years ago, it feels like at this point. At least 2 years ago. It was someone who was selling for about a year, and she realized that she hates selling clothing. So she sold me all of her clothing items. I had about $2 into each item. So my net profit on those shorts was $6.61. You don't need to pick up all the MMA things that you find at the thrift store, especially if they are shorts that look like these. And then on Friday, which was November 24th, on Poshmark, I had a pretty great sale. It was this vintage Hammersley cashmere blend tan double-breasted overcoat in a men's size 48. So I was a little skeptical regarding this item. I didn't think that it would sell just because it is vintage. It's like kind of an older style, and I've listed things like this before only for them to sit for a very long time. I got this from the same reseller buyout as the person that I received the Gianni beanie dress from. There were a few like amazing pieces in there. You know, I think in last week's What Sold video I talked about a Burberry's coat, and this was, you know, kind of similar in style to that Burberry's coat, but there were a few like really great items, a lot of bread and butter, and some kind of like, why is this here? Why did you think this was a good thing to pick up to resell? But just a handful of good items paid for the buyout and then some. And this was probably on the higher end of bread and butter, if you will. It wasn't like amazing, but definitely still did better than I thought it would. So this sold for $51. That was with discounted shipping, and I only had $3.85 into that, and so my net profit on that jacket was $34.93. If I remember correctly too, there were some spots on this jacket. Oftentimes on vintage pieces you will find spots and stains and things of that nature. I honestly didn't bother to get them out. I typically don't. I typically will leave it up to the buyer to fix or stain treat, you know, any item with flaws, just because it's not something that I want to do with my time. And if that means I have to sell it for a little bit less, I will. That's fine. That's preferable to me than spending a ton of time trying to get stains out. And I always preach on my channel, list the flawed items. I have made so much money off of items that have many flaws on them. There are people out there who want to buy those items and bring them back to life, and that's the opportunity that I gave someone with this jacket. So I thought that was a really great sale. The next things to sell this day were actually part of a bundle. I feel like over the past few weeks I've had a lot more bundles, which is wonderful. I love moving many items at one time. And so this bundle consisted of 3 items, and I think that this person bundled the items and simply sent me an offer because I don't see a shipping discount on here, and I went ahead and accepted. So the first thing to sell was this pair of Calvin Klein gray career dress pants in a women's size 16. These I was not super excited about listing, but I got them in a different reseller buyout. I had about $3.92 into those, and I just went ahead and listed them because I was like, listen, these are not exciting, but someone needs these in their lives, and they were a little bit bigger of a size. It did take about 2.5 years to sell through them, but we made it happen. I made some money on them, and I was happy about that. The next thing to sell was this J. Jill gray wool blend asymmetric boat neck sweater tunic in a size extra large. That one I had listed pretty recently, and I only had $2.60 into it from a local consignment store. That was something that I got during a birthday sale. That's why I had so little into it. And like I said, that particular piece had not been listed for very long. J. Jill is a brand that I slipped on for the first 3-4 years of my reselling career, and then I realized, you know what, there are a lot of people that really enjoy J. Jill, and it's kind of silly for me to not pick it up just because it's not my style or my aesthetic. Ever since I've started picking it up, especially the bigger sizes, they move really well, they move really quickly, they're good bread and butter. If you're not picking up J. Jill, I don't know, give it a chance, see what you think. The next thing to sell was this pair of Spanx Look at Me camo print high-rise leggings in a size 1X. These I actually purchased on Poshmark. I did some Poshmark arbitrage. Who am I? This was kind of a while ago though, and I think maybe someone was having one of those like birthday sales where things were like 50% off. I don't know, but I got these for $8.29, and that has to include shipping, so I must have gotten it in some sort of bundle, and the amount that I paid for shipping per item, you know, does decrease a little bit, but $8.29, not bad. So those 3 items sold for a bundle price of $75, and that was a pretty steep discount, but you know, like those Calvin Klein dress pants, like I was just ready to give those away at this point, so I was okay with that price for that bundle. My cost of goods for those 3 items was $14.78, and so my net profit on those 3 items was $45.22. The next thing to sell was a pair of Vibram 5 Fingers Sprint barefoot running shoes. They were in like a gray and green colorway, and they were in a women's size 40. I've always heard that these, what are they called? 5 finger shoes do pretty well. I think that they look kind of creepy. I'm so sorry if you're super into this style of shoe. I think that I would really hate wearing them. Like, I do not think my little toesies would appreciate each toe being individually shoved into their own little, like, it makes me just feel like, yeah, inside. And I remember getting them and showing them to my husband, and he was like, people wear those? And I was like, I know. And I just imagine people like running around in the jungle in these. Like, I don't imagine people wearing these doing regular things. And apparently they're running shoes, but I can't even imagine people running around in them like on the sidewalk in my neighborhood, you know? But probably a few weeks ago, we were at the YMCA. My son does basketball there. And we saw a man walking into the YMCA wearing them. And I kind of like nudged my husband and I was like, there they are in the wild. Like, people actually wear them. Like, it was just so important for me to know that people wear them in the world. I just needed to know that. And so I had my first sighting of them. But these sold for $35. I had $4.29 into them from a garage sale that I went to over the summer. Actually, not even over the summer. It was like over Labor Day weekend. And so my net profit on those was $23.71. They're super weird, but I do think they're worth the pickup if you don't have to put too much money into them. The next thing to sell was over on eBay. It was this pair of, gosh darn it, I have been told how to say this brand so many times. I think it's Rieger. If it's not, it's Riker. It's one of those. It's a German brand. I just am incapable of retaining certain kinds of information. Like, I know it's one of those and I can never remember which one. But it was this pair of black leather shoes with like brown stripes on them, little like brown strips, if you will, in a European size 42, which was a US size 10. Those sold via offers to watchers for $27.90. I had $3.47 into them from a local consignment store's birthday sale. I got them in May of 2023, so you know, like about a half year of being listed, and my net profit on those was $20.72. On Mercari, I sold this pair of Rothy's navy blue slip-on knit Chelsea boots in a size 8. I just have not come across Rothy's very often. I know that the craze has died down so much, but I was very excited when I got these from a coworker of mine. We are doing a consignment deal. She brought me a bunch of clothes last June. I still haven't even listed all of them. Like, there was so much clothes when she cleaned out her closet. And so this was one of the things that she gave me. I probably listed them a little high. I listed them for like $100, and I did eventually get a $68 offer on Mercari, which I just went ahead and happily accepted because they weren't getting that much interest. Like I said, I think that the Rothy's craze has really gone down quite a bit. I think it's still a great brand. People still really like them, but it's just not as desirable as it used to be, and comps aren't what they once were. And so they sold for $68. The deal that I have with my coworker is if something sells and gives me a net profit of $25 or more, I will give her 50% of the profits. This obviously had a net profit of $50 or more, so she made $29.23 on that sale, and so did I. The next thing to sell this day was another pair of Spanx leggings. So it was crazy because I feel like I've had these Spanx leggings for a while, and even last week I had a pair that sold, and I had had all of them for quite some time and was kind of feeling down about the brand and feeling like, man, maybe this just isn't worth picking up anymore. Just to have, you know, that one pair sell last week, I had these two sell in the same day. So I do think that these Spanx faux leather liquid leggings, I do think that they're still worth the pickup, but you just have to kind of keep in mind that you're probably going to sit on them for a little bit longer than you may have in the past, and you don't want to have too much into them. So this was the Spanx black faux leather liquid leggings in a size large. They sold for $35. I had $12 into them from a pop-up consignment sale, and so my net profit on those was $17.77, which means that $12 is a little too much to have into those. I think $5 is an appropriate amount to put into those now. It used to be $12 was great because you could sell these for like 50, 60 bucks. That's just really not the case anymore. And then on Saturday, which was November 25th, on Poshmark, I sold this weatherproof brown faux fur lined full zip puffer jacket in a size extra large with pockets. This was something that I got from a reseller buyout. I had $3.92 into it. I don't pick up the brand Weatherproof. I don't remember where it is that you can purchase it. Is it like Kohl's or something? It's not like a high-end brand. It's not a brand that is very expensive to begin with, so resale value just it really isn't there. This sold for $18, and this is like a full-blown coat, you know what I mean? It sold for $18 with discounted shipping. And by the way, if things are selling with discounted shipping, that's because of a Chrome extension that I use called Poshmark VA. You know, a lot of people's complaint with Poshmark is that it's so high maintenance. You have to do things like share your listings, and you have to relist stale listings, and you have to just do all these things in order to make sales. And those things are very time consuming. I don't have a lot of time on my hands. We are doing a what sold video from like a month and a half ago. That's how little time I have on my hands. I sure am not going to sit there and click a bajillion buttons to like share my closet or relist things. And so one thing that I like about Poshmark VA is it will take care of those mundane, time-consuming tasks for me so that I can do other things with my life. So if you would like to free up some time in your life, or maybe you're just not making very many sales on Poshmark because you're not doing those time-consuming things, Poshmark VA will do it for you. And if you want to try it out, I do have a coupon code. It's BECKYPARK, and it allows you to save 20% on your first payment of Poshmark VA. And this week I did make a couple sales because of Poshmark VA sending out offers for me 5 minutes after someone likes an item. So this sold for $18 with discounted shipping. I had $3.60 into it from that reseller buyout. My net profit was $8.46. This is why I don't pick up Weatherproof. The next thing to sell was this Barefoot Dreams Cozy Chic Light Mineral Circle Cardigan in a size large, extra large. It was like a very cozy knit. I have a Barefoot Dreams cardigan. I love it. I know a lot of people say not to pick up this brand anymore, and I get it. There was a craze. There's so much Barefoot Dreams on reselling markets now. There's, the cardigans, there's the blankets, there's the socks, there's all the things. But oh my gosh, I love my Barefoot Dreams cardigan. I love, we have 2 of the blankets now. They are our favorite as a family to snuggle under when we're like watching movies and stuff together in the family room. I just love Barefoot Dreams. And I was able to get this for really cheap at a pop-up consignment sale. Actually, not even that cheap. I got it for like $8. But guess what? It sold really fast for $30. And I would have gotten more for it, except that when I went to list it, I noticed like a hole or 2. And so I had to kind of lower the price to begin with. I think I probably could have gotten like 35 or 40 had it been in good condition because it was a little bit bigger of a size. It moved pretty quickly for me though. So I don't know. Personally, I'm gonna keep picking it up if I can get it for cheap. I don't even find it that much to begin with anyway. And my net profit on that was $16. And then on Sunday, which was November 26th, I had 2 eBay sales. The first one was this J. Crew blue and gray Madras plaid tailored button-down shirt in a size small. This was something that my husband used to wear, and it sold for $8. Now, to be honest with you, the buyer did open a return. They have yet to ship the item back, however. So who knows? On eBay, I would say like 35% of the time, people don't actually follow through with their returns when they open a return. They'll say they want to return something and then they never do. I was so thankful because I had sold something maybe in like September or something like that. I had sold this dress for over $100. I can't remember the brand right now. It was something like Dress the Population or, just one of those brands. I had sold it for like over $100. The buyer opened a return because she said it was too long. She didn't return it in the time frame that eBay allows. And so the return closed. I got to keep my money. I don't really care if this man ends up returning this item because it was an $8 item. My net profit on that was $6.74. If he returns it, it's not the end of the world. Will I even bother relisting it? Probably just because on eBay you can literally relist with like the click of a button if it's due to a return. Once you get the item back, once you issue the return, eBay's like, do you want to relist this for free? And you just go, sure. And then it's relisted on eBay. I would have to go through the process of relisting it on Poshmark and Mercari, but again, because of List Perfectly, because all of my listings live in List Perfectly, I don't go through and like delete them once something sells. It'll be really easy for me to relist this if I want to using List Perfectly. The question is it worth it? And then the last sale that we'll talk about was by another brand that I just pass up on so frequently, but I listed it because it showed up in my house from a reseller buyout, and that brand is CJ Banks. It was this green ribbed shawl collar pullover sweater. It was in a plus size 1X. That's probably the only reason I listed it is because it was a plus size piece. It sold for $14. I had $2 into it from the reseller who doesn't like to sell clothes. My net profit on that was $10.04. It's $10 more in my bank account than what I started that week with, so I'm not going to turn my nose up at it, but also I'm not going to go out of my way to pick up this brand in the future because it took a long time to make that $10, and I'd rather put my money into pieces that will flip a little bit more quickly for a little bit more money. So let's talk about my numbers for the week. On Poshmark, I sold 10 items, and that was for a gross sales amount of $285. Once you factor in Poshmark's fees, those couple items that sold with discounted shipping, that total drops to $223.21. For those 10 items, I had $41.72 into them. So an average about $4.17 per item. And my net profit on Poshmark was $181.49. On eBay, I sold 7 items. Now, a lot of those items were older listings. They were listings that sold for a lot less. And so my gross sales for those 7 items was $110. When you factor in eBay's fees, that total drops to $89.26. I only had $15.22 cents into those items, and so my net profit on eBay was $74.04. Now on Mercari, I sold 4 items, but one of those items was those pair of Rothy's, and then I had things like those Spanx leggings, things that just sold for a little bit more, and so my gross sales amount was $141.69. When you factor in Mercari's fees, that total drops to $120.49. My cost of goods for those 4 items was a bit higher than eBay's cost of goods at $45.23. That means my cost of goods per item was like a little over $10 per item, and yet my net profit on Mercari was a little bit higher than eBay's at $75.26. And that's why I'm saying, although I'm not like unhappy about making a $10 profit on a CJ Banks item, why go out of my way to pick up things by brands like CJ Banks that are going to make me $10 when I can focus my attention on things like Rothy's, which are not very easy for me to find, or even like Talbot's. You know, I made over $20 on that pair of Talbot's pants. I'd rather put my money into those kinds of things that are going to make me a little bit more money and that are going to sell faster. On Depop, I sold 1 item, and that was for a gross sales amount of $43.20. When you factor in Depop's fees and shipping, because on Depop I do pay for shipping, that total drops to $32.12. I had $3 into that item, and so my net profit was $29.12 on Depop. So in total, I sold 22 items for a gross sales amount of $579.89. The total drops to $465.08 once you factor in fees and shipping. My cost of goods for those 22 items was $105.17. And so my net profit for the week was $359.91, which I would say is pretty average for the year 2023. It is now 2024, and the hope is that we can change that, and that with a little bit more consistency and with like this mentality of doing less in order to accomplish more, the hope is that that number will average like 500 versus 300 something, and we'll see if we can make that happen. I guess you'll just have to subscribe and stay tuned to see if I'm able to do those things. But thank you so much for watching. I know this is an older video. I know I'm behind, but if you made it this far, I love you so much. I appreciate you so much. I hope you had a wonderful new year and that you were just smashing all of your New Year's resolutions. In fact, I would love to hear what your New Year's resolutions were for the year 2024. What kind of improvements are you trying to see in your life? What era are you in the year 2024? What are you aspiring to be? For me in the year 2024, I think if I had to put a theme on it, my theme is going to be health. And it's not just physical health, although that's a huge part of it. I'm trying to just be really thoughtful about what I'm putting in my body. I'm trying to be really thoughtful about moving my body, but it's also mental health. You know, it's clearing out the things that I don't need taking up space in my heart and in my mind. It's also just being more thoughtful of how I use my time. Again, I don't want to just burn, what is that phrase? Burn the midnight oil? Is that correct? But I don't want to just stay up late night after night trying to accomplish things for the sake of like, you know, really impressive thumbnails or for the sake of keeping up with other resellers when we're not in the same boat. Like, I'm trying to keep up with full-time resellers or resellers who don't have families or resellers who don't have full-time jobs, and it doesn't make sense. And I'm just making myself really unhappy, holding myself to unrealistic expectations. And so I think, again, the theme of 2024 for me is going to just be health, wellness. I don't know what the third one is. Just being content with doing what I know I can do and not getting upset at myself for not being able to do more. I think that's how I spent a lot of my 2023. I think I spent a lot of it just upset and angry and disappointed in myself for not being able to do more. And that's silly. So that's what I'm thinking about in the year 2024. Let me know what you're thinking about, what your theme for 2024 is, if you will. I would love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!